Welcome, guys, to my YouTube channel. This is still the Alpha Code of Parenting. And today, like I promised the last time, we're going to consider how our childhood experience affects our parenting style. Although there are many factors that affect our parenting style, our childhood experience has a significant impact on our parenting style. The reason is simple. The way our parents raised us, we kind of draw a lesson from it or we totally reject it. So, but this does not mean that if we had a good childhood, we automatically become good parents. Or if we had bad childhood, we'll be bad parents. What it simply means is that there are some things that our parents might do that we might not like, and we'll just avoid it entirely, or become even permissive to our children. Or there are some things they did and we really liked it. It worked well on us, and we want to imbibe those features in teaching our own children. So today, I was looking for a very good story that will highlight this particular impact on us, and I could not find one. The reason is simply because as a child, I was very laid back. If it were my brothers, on the other hand, they would have more stories to tell because they were very adventurous as children. But I'll pick a story from one of their stories, which I featured in, but not necessarily the ringleader of it. My father used to say, I'm like a supporters club. I don't get to be very active. I did not understand the impact of what he said until way later when I saw how fans used to farm their clubs, even without having a direct impact on the club. They kept on, or they'll keep on discussing about the club as if they were paying the players or getting involved on a daily basis. So back to the story that I intend to share. It is about gambling and games. So when we're growing up in the early 90s, there were no games as we know today. So what we usually have is hand games, and our parents would promise us if you do very well in school, they will buy you hand games, and they did. They kept to their word. When we did very well in school, they bought us hand game, but that hand game itself became a challenge because at some point, the game itself started affecting the way we read, or we were playing more games than reading. So you get to a point they will seize the phone, the game, they will release it, seize, release, and go to another point where we're no longer very interested in the game. Why? Because we now had board games. It is not chess or Monopoly, no. Table tennis and snooker. So we're all coming together in the whole street. People will come together and you see from afar. You can tell where people are playing this game. Gradually, it developed into gambling. So at those points, you pay maybe 5 naira or 2 naira, 1 naira, I can't remember exactly, for you to play. So people got very good and they had bragging rights. As a result, people will say, I dare you, you cannot beat this person. I set 10 naira or 20 naira on your head. And that was how it happened. All of us, let's not talk about how we got the money to play the game, Sha. That's a topic for another day. But we are getting money to gamble, to bet on people. And sometimes people from other streets will come to compete with our streets. And that was how the whole chain of gambling started. My parents did not like it because this started another ugly chain that they knew would affect us in the long term. So as children, it seemed like we're having fun, but our parents were not exactly very pleased. So, but somehow, Sha, because they could always trace where we were, they would come to the board, they would destroy the board, seize the snooker stick, seize the balls, sometimes even threaten the parents of those who had the board games, and that was how it continued. So they were getting a hang of it until another challenge came up. That was the Nintendo 64 and the Sega, the 8-bit and the 16-bit. Remember those games then? They were very whack, but we enjoyed them. The Super Mario and some other games like that. We usually enjoyed those games. But then you realize that we didn't have lights or NEPA lights, as we used to call them back in the days, as much. And so we will just gather anytime there is light in one of our friend's house or our neighbor's house and play game all through. That itself, our parents didn't like it exactly, but it also limited the number of times we gambled. So they kind of allowed us do it in a way. So because there was no light, some people saw it as an avenue that if they could get generator and power the games, perhaps people will come and pay money to play games just like we're doing those board games. But it's different, or the challenge our parents face with that one is that they did not exactly know where those game centers were. They are usually challenged in the lungu, those interiors where you have to pass through the back of people's house to get to. And that was how another set of gambling started. Those who could play very well would sit down from morning to night and be taking our money small, 5 naira. just like that. But our parents will start looking for us. But eventually, with time, they discovered the 3 or 4 game centers that were there. And if we see them, somebody will just stand at one far side watching to see anytime our parents are coming, and they will notify us. We'll park the games, park generator, everybody will run away. And it happened like that. But our parents were struggling to make sure that we stop excessive gaming and gambling. But this is where the real story started. One boy came far away. I remember his name, Fidelis, very well. He came and he said there was a new set of game, Mortal Kombat, and the graphics was very real. That we enjoy playing the game. But the challenge was that the game is not even around. It was about 20 kilometers or 30 kilometers away. So we all agreed to go and see the game for ourselves. And one Saturday, when our parents went to work, my mom went to the market. We all gathered ourselves and went to play the game. But because, of course, that Mortal Kombat was very rare, we met a huge crowd in that place. So before it got to our turn, and we played, all of us, about 7 or 9 of us that went, it was very late. So by the time we returned home, my mom was already back around 5 or 6. So you can imagine the terror my mother faced when she came back and none of her children were available. Not one, not two, but 3 of her children. And she went to all those corners that we used to play the games, went to our neighbor's house to ask them. And when they told her that we went to a faraway place to play the game, she became even more terrified. And as she waited to that time, you can imagine as a parent what she will be thinking in her head. So this caused her a whole lot of tension. And when we came back, the beatings my brother received, my brothers, I have never seen my mom get angry or discipline them like that. But that is not even the worst. The worst part is she refused them to enter the house and refused to give them food all through the night. But for me, she just gave me some 2 slaps in my head about 10 o'clock and she gave me food. I ate. And that's why I say I am not really the star person in this story. But I saw the impact it had, not just on my mom, I saw the impact it had on my siblings too. They were just young children who were just trying to have fun, although their own idea of fun totally was self-destructive, but they didn't know any better. And for my mom, many people, of course, today as I tell this story, would think that okay, she was excessively harsh. But I have seen situations too as a parent where children went out and they did not come back. So imagine how a parent will feel. So most parents today, especially when they want to discipline their children, it is always that love motivated by fear that make them discipline their children these days. And some of the stories you hear today where you say, we saw Ikenna or Chukudi by 12 o'clock and so and so, and we are still looking for him, we can't find him. It will tell you that these are some of the things that happened that made those children missing. Till they just still look for them. So, what lessons can we draw from here? For me, when I was preparing for this video, I now realized that all the games that my child has, from beginning to end, I did not buy any single one. Why? Because I kind of have a negative relationship with games. Not because I see games as bad, but I see them as unnecessary in the life of a child, especially because the way my parents reacted. And I also realized that even in my phone, I do not have any game. So that reaction on my parents or that episode kind of caused a negative relationship with me and the way I play games. But that apart, another thing too that my mom did that I have vowed not to do is to weaponize food. Most parents then, when they get very angry, what they do is to say, okay, you will not eat food and the rest. But I didn't like the way my brothers felt throughout that night. And perhaps we did not even eat before we went to play that game. So they did not have lunch, they did not have dinner because they were stubborn or disobedient. So since then, I said to myself, no matter how stubborn my children become, they will definitely eat. If I buy meat pie for 4 and I have 4 children, because one has done something wrong, they must get that meat pie or meat or anything I'm buying for them so that it is no longer the punishment of you or using food as a punishment too. So looking at the impact it's had on me, I didn't know that it was really significant like this until I was preparing for this video. But for my own siblings, it is totally different because of the harsh way in which they were treated, especially when they did something wrong. They are very subtle with their children and sometimes too, perhaps maybe excessively. So you can see that our particular reaction to our parents or to our childhood experience is totally different We might take good lessons from it, we might take bad lessons from it. It all depends. But I find the story a little boring. I think I wish I was a little more active in the story, because if it was my brothers doing this video, they would have told you that they saw the bed of Akala before Anikulapo saw it at night when they slept outside. Or they will tell you how they saw three witches at night carry one child to go and initiate. But I didn't have none of those stories. Perhaps one of these days I'll get to interview them to see how that experience shaped the way they treat their children or the way they discipline their children. But the bottom line of this video is this: the way our parents raised us has a significant impact on how we too raise our children. So we want to be more mindful of this fact so that we do not transfer aggression that we got from our parents and inflict them on our children. And that is where it becomes important for our next video, where we'll discuss the circle of influence. If you understand the circle of influence, then you begin to understand some of the drawbacks that you have and begin to work on them and see where you have key strength and work on it. And if you understand the circle of influence, I promise you, or it is a guarantee, that your parenting style will come up to 50%. And if you apply the circle of influence, I can assure you that your parenting skill will go up to 90%. So join us in our next video. But please like, share, subscribe, and tell others about this video too, so that many more people will come and will benefit as parents as we try to raise the best version of our children.